Ho ho ho! This is October Paper Pumpkin 2022. My name is Lori Perez and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I go by Lori's Happy Stamps. This video is created primarily for the gals who hop on with me the first Friday of every month to create alternatives with our paper pumpkin kits. However, it has lots of good ideas and tips that I think anybody would be interested in. So let's get going. Today, the format's going to be a little bit different, and I'll just tell you up front, the video will be a little bit longer because I am going to be out of the country on November 4th when we usually meet. Instead of me taking all of my alternative packaging and equipment with me, I thought I would spend a little bit more time detailing the projects on the video, and then I'll just call in on November the 4th and Zoom with anybody who has questions and to share our projects that we've created. So all of the ideas I'm going to give you today can be used with this kit or any other stamping set that you have, so they're very flexible. The first project I want to share with you are these adorable cards, and you make 4 of them at one time. So let me show you what I do. The first thing I do is so the cards look like this. There's 1, and then there's 2, and there's 3, and there's 4. This time I did not give you liners for inside the cards because my idea was, I know it's in here somewhere, here it is, that you could choose how you wanted to put a liner inside your card. Of course, you can write on here if you'd like, or stamp. But I like to use a white liner, as you know, and it's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. It just really makes it finished and look nice. So you can add your own paper for that. The other thing that you can do is you can take a piece of paper that is 4 by 6 3/4 and score it at 1 1/2. Put a little glue on each end and make a little space right there. And then you have a gift card holder. So depending on what you want to do with these cards, they could be an ordinary card or they could be a gift themselves. Let me show you how I make them. I took a piece of regular white, basic white cardstock, and I cut it to 8 inches by 10 1/2 inches. And on the 8-inch side, I score it at 4 inches. I only use this black marker so you could see it clearly. So I score it right there. The next thing I do is I measure into 5 1/4 inches and I score it along that. I guess that makes more sense. Score it along there. And then what I do is I take my stamps and I stamp on either side of the line, both vertically and horizontally, to make a pattern that's pleasing to me. In this case, I did this. So I took the stamp of the Santa and I colored him in. I actually did the HoHoHo. I used the snowflake and I used the stars. I don't know if you can see, but there is a score line down here and a score line here. I am now going to cut on those score lines so that I can make 4 panels. So I'm going to quickly open this up, and at 4 inches I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to turn each piece over and I'm going to cut them at 5 1/4 inches. And you can just line up that score line that you made. So I did 2, and then I'll do the other 2. Again, lining up the score line right in the track of my cutting tool. And I have 4. So those will be the fronts for 4 cards. In your bits kit this month, which is something that I send to all of my subscribers. First of all, you have one frame from the new Flowering Florets die set, so you can play with it at a later time. In here, you have that white piece of paper that you're going to cut down into that 8 by 10 1/2 inch piece. But you also have 4 pieces of cardstock that are already scored. So you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4 card bases. Those are all in coordinating colors with this kit. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to glue a front on each of your cards. So you'll just glue it flat, just like that. Then what you're going to do is decide how to embellish this part, and you can leave it alone. You can add a ribbon around it. You can add some bling. You can add another Santa. But you can do whatever you want. I used the Santas for this one. For this one, I used the Santa and his sleigh. And then I decided to add a Santa from the kit. And so I had a really hard time lining it up. I figured it out last night in the middle of the night. I should have used a tweezer and laid my inked image down and taken my piece and laid it flat onto there instead of trying to line the image up on the piece. Just do it backwards. It works a whole lot better. But for this one, you can see I just did my own outline with Early Espresso ink pen, and that worked out fine. So I did something different on each one. For this one, I didn't even try to stamp it at all, and I just added the eyes and a circle around the nose and a little line on his hat. And I thought that turned out very cute. For this one, I did the same thing, also added a little bow mouth, but I also added a little bit of, what is this called? Shimmery crystal effects on his hat. So that looks cute. And I also put a wavy circle, one of the new punches. I put that behind that one, and that turned out cute. And the last one, I added a Santa that looks shiny. Do you see how he's shiny? And I want to show you how to do that next. In your kit, you also have a piece of white paper that is 8 1/2 inches by 2 1/8 inch. Let me show you what to do with that guy. with that guy, we're going to make our own Santas. And the one thing that I think you should have this time around is your packing tape. Remember, we've talked about packing tape before. Let me show you how I used it on a couple of these projects. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to stamp on that piece of basic white. And if you do the Santas facing up and down, up and down, up and down, you can get 6 easily on that piece of cardstock that I gave you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to color in the Santas, and I used Stampin' Blends, and I used dark real red. I used flirty flamingo light for his cheeks. I used light sweet sorbet for his nose and the little bit of light at the top here and on his hat. And then I used crumb cake for his skin tone. But remember, we have the Stampin' Blends flesh tones that you can use, the natural tones, so you can make your Santas any color you want. But crumb cake was the suggested color for that went with the kit, so I just did it. The next thing you're going to do is after you have them colored in, and if you don't have Stampin' Blends, don't worry about it. You can use regular markers, you can use watercolors, you can use chalks, you can do whatever you want, because what you're going to do is, do you see how mine are shiny now? I think I can, yeah, you can see that they're glossy. They're glossy because I took a piece of packing tape and I just pulled it out and laid it flat on right across the whole piece of Santas, and that's so I did it all with one piece of packing tape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out each of the Santas, and you don't have to be, you know, you do a little fussy cutting, and this would be good as you watch a baseball game, maybe the World Series when the Padres are going to play. I hope. So anyway, you just fussy cut around these little guys, and then you have 6 additional Santas for your projects this time around. You can use them on the last 4 cards that I just showed you, or on some other cards that I'm going to share with you. So when you're done, you have 6 of these Santas that you can use on any of your projects, and they all shine and have a little special twinkle for the holidays on them. So make those. All right. Now, the next project I'm going to show you doesn't require anything from me except a white envelope, and you have a white envelope in your kit that I sent you, so use it. And I stamped and colored a Santa here, and I stamped and colored some Santas on the back flap. I took the inside of one of the framed images, or one of the frames that came in your kit, so don't throw that inside away. I stamped on it and colored in the Santas. I glued them flat, and then I used a Bermuda Bay Stampin' Blend, and I colored the frame. I put the frame up on dimensionals. I know you can see that just a little bit. And I laid it on. I didn't worry if it kind of went over the edges because I just trimmed the 3 edges that were over the card base. I stamped the snowflakes with crumb cake on the card base. I bumped up this piece of candy striped paper and the white piece that were in your kit with dimensionals. You can see that. And then I glued flat the Mary on top of that. For the inside of the card, I added a early espresso Santa and reindeer, and I added some crumb cake snowflakes. So that's that card. The next card I made was this card, and it is using all the products in your kit. And I even used one of the envelopes from the kit, but I stamped an early espresso Santa and reindeers there, and one on the left-hand side. For the card, I used the smaller piece of the snowflake, and it's actually crumb cake, but I flipped it over and I used the white side. I bumped it up on dimensionals, and then I added 3 of those cute Santas that I have the packing tape on. The one in the middle is bumped up on a dimensional, and the 2 on the side are glued flat. I added some of the dots from the resin dots that we have in the Stampin' Up! Catalog. I glued the green piece to the back of the Bermuda Bay or balmy blue piece, and I bumped that up on dimensionals, and then I glued the HoHoHo right over it. So it's really cute, and the Santas shine. Okay. And for the inside, I did the Santa and the sleigh with the early espresso, and Santa Claus is coming to town in sweet sorbet. The next card has some pieces that you use from your kit, and then I provided a piece of red ribbon for you. So this bottom piece is that inside of the frame again, and this top piece is just that, the piece that came in your kit. What I did is I laid them flat on the card, so I knew how big 5.5 was, and I taped them in the back with Scotch tape. Then I took packing tape and I put packing tape on it so the whole thing shimmers. Can you see that? The whole thing, the white bottom and then the balmy to the Bermuda Bay, it all shines. Okay? Then I added the J, O, and Y from the kit, and I added 1 middle size and 2 of the smaller crystal shimmery snowflakes, and I added 3 sequins that I just had in my stash. So you could totally make it without the sequins. You could add dots, you could add rhinestones, whatever you would like. And then for the inside, I actually used a different sentiment. But what I did, and I wanted you to see, is I took my balmy blue and I just scribbled on it. And then I stamped over that with the cherry cobbler. And then I added the Bermuda Bay snowflakes. For the envelope, it's just one of the envelopes that came with the cards, with the card kit, and snowflakes on the front and snowflakes on the back flap. So that's the Joy card. The next card I made for you is actually a gatefold card. And so you're going to use one of the regular bases and open it out, and you're going to score it at 2 1/8 inch on either side. You're going to fold it in on itself, and you'll see on the back you actually can see the score line here. It doesn't matter because in the kit I gave you, you have a piece of crumb cake that is 4 by 5 1/4, and you have a piece of basic white that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So those will be glued into the middle of your card. Stamp on your white piece first before you glue it in case you need to flip it over. And then what I did is I used a corner rounder for each of the top pieces. I stamped cherry cobbler on the cherry cobbler piece and crumb cake on the crumb cake side. You have a piece of sweet sorbet in your kit that is 3 inches by 3 inches. I also did the corners at the top, rounded the corners to match the top of the card. I added one of my Santas, and this is one of my Shimmery Santas. I added 2 of the medium snowflakes. And then I added the vellum HoHoHo. I just glued it on flat, and I glued the cherry cobbler HoHoHo over that. Remember to only glue on the right hand side so that you can open up your card. Isn't that a cute card? I love it. Okay, and for the envelope, I gave you a blank white envelope, and I just added a Santa sleigh, and then you can add your own DSP to the flap, or you can just stamp on it. So that is the HoHoHo card. The next card I had fun with, I actually used the Sweet Songbirds. I used these little notes in stamping my card. Totally not necessary, but I thought it added a cute flavor. For this card, what I did is notice my HoHoHos go down. How did I do that? Well, I cut apart my HoHoHos. I can fit them back together easily in a vertical, but I can also use them in a horizontal, but I can also use them in a vertical application. And I put them on a G block. You can use any block, but that block worked really well. I just lined them up right on top of each other. You'll see another card where I kind of randomly moved them around. But this is one of your card bases from the kit. Everything is you have to do. I gave you this fancy circle, which is bumped up on dimensionals. And I added one of my fancy Santas. You also have a piece of basic white that you can stamp Santa Claus is coming to town. And then for this piece of candy stripe, I glued it on, and then I just cut it to the length of the crumb cake, which I don't know is about 2.5 inches or maybe bigger. You can take a look at it before you glue it down. And I bumped that whole thing up on dimensionals. The Santa is glued flat onto the circle, and the circle is glued on with dimensionals. The large snowflake is just glued on. And then I added some shaded spruce notes because Santa Claus is coming to town. It makes me think of singing. So anyway, and then on the inside, I took my HoHoHo and I made it into the vertical HoHoHo Merry Christmas and added the Santa. And you'll see that I actually stamped it off onto the right-hand side as well. I thought it was cute that way. And for my envelope, I did more of the notes, Santa Claus is coming to town, and then covered the flap with notes. And it's one of the envelopes that comes with the kit. All right. The next card is actually it is a gift card holder. So it can be a gift all by itself. For the envelope, I didn't do anything to the outside here. I put some snowflakes that are done with crumb cake on the outside flap. And here is what the card looks like. Isn't that cute? So what I did with this is I measured in 1.5 inches on the front and I scored it. Then I took a little bite out of it with a circle and I put some glue at the top and the bottom and I folded it back onto the front of the card itself. Okay? So then I took some crumb cake and I stamped the snowflakes, but I stamped them off first. So these are second generation snowflakes using crumb cake. I took one of the large snowflakes and I cut it in half. I used 1/2. It butts up right here so you can see there's nothing beyond the fold back. And the other half I glued here. This piece is a 1.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of designer series paper, and it is in your kit that I gave you. So glue it on first, then glue the other half of the snowflake. Then I did the Merry and the Christmas using the cherry cobbler and the crumb cake. And again, I stamped off first on the snowflakes. So these are second generation snowflakes. I think it turned out really cute. What do you think? You add your own gift card for whatever you want. And that is your gift card holder. I'm going to save the last card. I wanted to share with you, I also am giving you a treat box. These treat boxes you can order. They come in packs of 10 from Stampin' Up. So I gave you one to play with and you could see what you think. I also gave you one of the circles here. And then I stamped Merry and Holly Jolly all around it. I glued the circle right onto the box lid. So it opens up like that. And then I added one of my Santas. And I bumped it up on a dimensional. Okay, very easy. And the treat boxes are already scored and they already have the glue tape on them. You just have to put them together. So you'll like that. The last card is my wow card. And I want to thank a friend of mine from Facebook, Debbie Henderson. She is a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, independent demonstrator, and she does the most fantastic cards. So she calls this a triple card, fun card, but I'm calling it the Goldilocks card because there's a Papa Bear, the big card, there's a Mama Bear, and there's a Baby Bear. So you have all the stuff that you need in your kit. In your kit, you have the larger blue back base, and you're going to use that. I then cut a piece of white for you, and for this one, I embossed it, but you could stamp on it. You could also just use it plain. You can do whatever you want. You could even use it as a template and cut a piece of designer series paper, and that would be 4 inches by 5.25 inches. Then for this Mama Bear card that opens to the right, you will see that it's already scored for you, and I gave you 2 pieces of white. Again, I embossed it, but feel free to stamp on it or use it as a template to use designer series paper. And the baby card is on the top. And again, you have 2 pieces of white, one for the inside, and you do whatever you want. So the first thing you want to do is stamp on your insides. And you had to kind of squish your HoHoHo for this card to fit it in and kind of angle it, but it works. And I used some of the snowflakes. Then for the mama card, I stamped Mary, Mary, Mary and some snowflakes. And for the daddy card, I did Christmas. So it's Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. And I put some more of the snowflakes on it. This card opens up, and so it sits flat on a table, which is great. And it's kind of 3-dimensional. It looks really cool. I used some of the snowflakes from the kit. I used some of these resin dots from Stampin' Up, but again, use rhinestones, use some of your old stash. Don't use anything at all. It's up to you. You could even use a Santa on here if you wanted to, or a joy, however you want to decorate yours. But that's your big wow card. I thought it was really cute. And then for the envelope, I just used one of the envelopes from the kit, and I stamped snowflakes on the flap and snowflakes on the front. That is it for all of your alternatives. I hope you have really a lot of fun making them. I want to encourage you to make them before November the 4th. I plan on being live on Zoom at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but I will be in Mazatlan, so I think that's 11 a.m. my time. I'll have to figure that out, but it's 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we can share our cards. If you have any questions, I can answer them at that time. And I think this will just work a whole lot better than me trying to lug everything down there and setting it up down there and then getting everything back without everything being all munched. Because talking about munching, my kit was actually totally munched when I got it. My box was almost unrecognizable. And let me just see if I can pull it out of the trash for you so you can see. My box came like this, and it was a total mess. And I mean, I can't even use it for anything else. And the inside, all of my cards were bent. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I could send it back, no worries. But instead I decided I was just going to embrace it and figure out what to do. So all of those card bases that I shared with you were actually crinkled bases. I also want to show you what I did with my 3 regular cards and how I kind of hid the crinkles. And you can see they're crinkled when you look at them, but I think they still look cute on the outside. For this one, it was easy to pretty much cover that up because we had the big piece here. And this one is pretty much just like the way they suggested making it. Although I did use some of that crystal effects on his hat. And I thought that turned out cute. For the inside, I did 'Tis the Season to Be Jolly. And I added some snowflakes. I added some snowflakes to the envelope on the front and the flap. This card, where was the, okay, this one, It was my mistake. So I was able to cover up the fold, the crinkle, with this piece just fine. But I could not for the life of me line up my Santa. And so I don't know if you'd pick up on it or not, but this Santa's hat is flipped. Instead of going this way, it goes that way. And the way I did that is I actually turned over the Santa image, and so it was blank on the back. And I took my silicone mat and I stamped with Early Espresso the Santa right on the mat. Then I had the mat laying flat on my desk, and I took that Santa image and I laid it on top of the silicone mat, and then I just went over it real gently with my finger. When I lifted it up, the image was there. It wasn't this dark, and I made it this dark with my Stampin' with my marker, my Early Espresso marker. I just traced over the lines, and then I colored him in. I added some of that crystal effects on his hat, and so his hat points to the J instead of the Y. Nobody would notice, right? So then on the inside, I just did 'Tis the Season to Be Jolly. I didn't make anything fancy on this one, but I did want to show you on the envelope. I stamped the Santa on the outside and on the flap, and I went ahead and colored it with my Stampin' Blends, but then I took my famous Jelly Roll pen that I really like, and I just did little tiny circles for his beard and his mustache, and colored in his Santa hat, and I think they look really cute. So that's how I did that one. The last card was the one that was really the perplexing card. This card was a mess. You can see the crinkle here. I couldn't get it out, and there was nothing that was really going to cover that up. So what I did is I just moved the framed image down instead of having it at the top, and I used the candy cane stripe piece along the top instead of the bottom, so it kind of disguises that crinkle yucky piece. Okay, so that's how I did that. And on the inside, I did the Merry Christmas in the Early Espresso, used the Bermuda Bay for the snowflakes, and on the envelope, I used the Early Espresso Santa in a Sleigh, the snowflakes, and I did the same thing on the flap. So there you go. A little bit longer, but I hope it was informative. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and give me a call. Thanks.